Hey everybody, I thought I'd show you what I was working on this afternoon. It's a little overcast day, but it's nice and warm out, and I thought I'd get some work done with some gardening tasks. I need to transplant some starter plants from an Aerogarden into these little starter pots. It's a little bit early for them to go out into their permanent spots in the garden, so I'm going to leave them in these little starter pots for a couple of weeks, maybe a week or so. See what happens with the weather. We've got one more cold night coming up, and I'd rather be able to bring them inside if need be than try to have to cover them out in the garden. So, to give you a little idea of what I got, this plant up here in the front left, that's a purple tomatillo. And then behind it, not a lot of stuff sprouted. Those were oregano plants, a combination of a Greek and Italian oregano. One sprouted, that's an Italian oregano, but the others just didn't really do anything. And then in the back over here, I've got some cilantro, and I've also got 4 chocolate cherry tomato plants, and those did really great. So I'm going to go ahead and transplant these, and that's my little task for the moment. Alrighty, I'm back. Pardon me. So this is what I just transplanted, what I showed you in that first Aerogarden. Everything's transplanted just fine. Now I'm getting ready to transplant another Aerogarden. These are all my pepper plants for the year. I think this is probably it. I might get like one other pepper plant at the hardware store, I don't know. But you can kind of see my little schematic here. That's when I planted them in the Aerogarden, was on January 12th, and they are just now getting transplanted. So I've got one Thai chili pepper plant because they're pretty productive and we don't use a whole lot of those, but one plant is enough. So I've got one Thai chili plant. I've got a bunch of bell peppers because that's what we use the most. Got a blushing beauty which didn't germinate, so I think I just had bad seeds. But I got a California Wonder, a purple beauty, an orange king, a chocolate bell, a white bell, a golden California Wonder, and a lilac bell. Then I also have a couple jalapenos, a red Marconi, and a gatherer's gold. Those are Italian frying peppers. And then 2 of the yummy snack peppers. Those are those little tiny red, yellow, and orange peppers you see in bags in supermarkets in the produce section that are really, really sweet and don't really have many seeds. We really like those in salads, so I like to grow those too. And they make a lot of peppers, so we only need 2. I grew 4 of them last year, and we didn't use all of our peppers. So the only thing I'm probably going to buy at a garden center or a feed store this year is something to replace that blushing beauty. It was a bell pepper that starts off like a cream white color and ripens to like a peachy pink. And it didn't sprout, and I replanted it and it didn't sprout, so I think I just got bad seeds. So the rest of them did great, so we'll see what happens with them. I'm going to go ahead and transplant those right now. Okay, so this is the last Aerogarden I'm going to transplant seedlings from today. And it's a little bit of everything. Not everything sprouted very well in it, and I think it's because it was cold in the room where I have the Aerogardens, and it maybe just wasn't, warm enough for some to sprout. In the back, I've got some dill, and that sprouted very well. It's a variety called Ducat dill, D-U-K-A-T, and it's supposed to be a very bushy dill with a lot of greenery and not as many seed pods. And I like dill for the greenery for the most part, so that's a variety I'm looking forward to growing. Up front, those big plants, those are more purple tomatillos. And I'm glad they're doing so well, because you really need more than one plant with tomatillos to get them to produce well. You need at least 2. So I've got 1 already, 2, 3, 4, 5. One of them is a little stunted, so I think I'm going to have 4, which is a great number for tomatillos. They ought to help each other produce really well. And I've got, it looks like 1 cilantro, maybe some peppermint, a sage, possibly a lemon balm in there, but my lemon balm didn't do good. I'm probably going to have to try to replant it or just buy a starter plant. We'll see. So that's what I'm working on right now. This is what I've already planted today. So I'll get finished and show you guys my finished project. Okay, so I'm done. I got all of that transplanted out of the Aerogarden. You can see there's some things still growing in here. They're very small, so I'm going to put them into another Aerogarden and let them continue to grow before I transplant them. And these little things are peppermint. These are sage. That little thing behind the sage is a orange lemon balm. And this little thing right here is a lemon balm. And then this one in the middle, you can't see in the middle back, but there's a tiny sprout inside it. That's a patchouli plant. So they just need a little more time under those good grow lights with that good nutrient solution going through the roots to get these started. So I'm gonna keep those in an Aerogarden and see how they go. Start some more seeds. And I'm about done as far as starting seeds to do transplants. Everything else for the garden, I'm pretty sure, are just going to be seeds that I just start in their permanent home, like beans and squash and cucumbers. They all get started in their home. So I don't do starter plants for them, and because of the way that they grow. I've got another Aerogarden inside the house that has some eggplants started in it and some more herbs. So those get out a little bit later. I don't really think I'm going to be buying many starter plants at the garden center. We'll see. I was going to maybe take a trip out there this weekend, see what all they had. I went Wednesday and they really didn't have anything that I haven't already started here, so I didn't see anything I needed. But I'll try to do another update on garden as soon as some more stuff happens. Right now, this is the only interesting thing happening in my garden. Okay, so these are some more things that I transplanted from my Aerogarden. These are all micro dwarf tomato plants that only get about 8 inches to a foot tall. You can see there was a little bit of transplant shock on some of them. We did get a couple of really cold nights after I transplanted them. And here are some more, and then some full-size tomato plants. This one's already blooming. I need to pinch that bloom off. You can see there's a little bit of damage on some of the leaves from when we had that one cool night, but they're all putting out new green growth. I'm not that worried. Here's some herbs, dill, cilantro. The ones that didn't make it, those were basil. So, and there's a sage. But the dill and the cilantro and the sage did fine that one night we had an unexpected freeze. It was supposed to not get below 34 and it got down to 30. So the tomatoes are alive. These little tomatoes are all alive. And then I've got all of the transplants I made today. So that's it for my transplants so far. Okay, so I wanted to show one more plant. This is one that I saved that might not have made it otherwise. It is called a sweet pea currant tomato, and I got some of these currant tomato seeds. Wanted to try them out. They're a different kind of tomato plant. They're like a wild plant. They grow really long, viney vines, just wild, out of control plants, real bushy, viney, out of control plants. And I think that was kind of fun. And they're supposed to have really good flavor, and they make teeny, teeny, tiny tomatoes, and a bunch of them. And some people call them spoon tomatoes because you're supposed to be able to eat them by the spoonful. They're so tiny. So this plant was one of the ones I started in January in my Aerogarden and transplanted them outdoors in February. And we had that unexpected storm that night that dropped the temperatures down to 30. And wind blew, and it blew some of the plants over. And when it blew this one over, the stem bent. So I transplanted it into a gallon pot so I could get that stem down in the dirt below the bend point. That way it could start putting out some roots along the stem, and hopefully the plant would live. And it looks like the plant is gonna live. It's got a little bit of damage from that freeze, but you can see there's some new growth. So as long as it's got new growth, it's gonna be okay. It just got a little bit of a setback. So I'm probably gonna let this one grow in this gallon pot for a while and probably go ahead and plant it out in its permanent home towards the later half of March. Give it a good head start to put out a lot of roots in that stem. So I just wanted to show you how I managed to save this one. And looks like it's going to be okay.